And the podcast episode starts, or just started a couple seconds ago. Welcome to Currency Podcast episode 118. It would appear that in the podcasting world, some people are taking the number off of their podcasts to say, like, oh, we're not counting the episodes, or like that doesn't appear in the title of it right up front. Like Impulsive is more discreet about the number of episode now, or like Howie Mandel's podcast is discreet about the number, but there's a few of them that are doing that where it's like they were counting them before and then they switched it. I disagree. I like the number. I think the number is better. People are doing that so they can disassociate from Joe Rogan's podcast, which is probably the most famous of all for numbering itself. So I guess there's debate. Is it good to have the number? I think it's good to have the number. It's one of the innovative technologies that's brought to light through podcasting that people should take advantage of, because you get to tell everybody how much. That's like the whole point. The number is like the important part, I think. You tell everybody, look, I keep doing it this many times. The only important part of podcasting is the number. I did it 205 because that's your departure from the world of television. Where television, they didn't have the number for the episode right up front. You didn't know how many they went. But also, in the world of like sitcoms and TV shows, it was understood that talent only lasted so long, or like a show's energy only has a cap at some point, because like, okay, this will only ever be good for 100 episodes. Like the world of TV sets this standard where it's like past 100 episodes, then your TV show is going to be shitty. And basically all TV shows are like that. But podcasts are like, no, people are ever evolving. It never ends. The energy behind something has no capacity. Look, and you know that that's true because I keep counting the numbers. So with all that said, that's why I'm going to end this podcast, I guess, that I'm doing. Let me contradict myself and make a finite number of episodes with this podcast. I think I'll make a few more than I originally thought that I would. Look at my barge. Mistletoe is like cleaning up the area around the golf ball before he hits it, because he's just a consummate professional like that. He's a consummate professional. Consummately, he professes his game. It's really the consummation that makes him a golfer, makes him who he is. So I was saying in the last episode, talking about Balenciaga and like Baal worship, but I'm talking about how I was trying to make a point about how the energy of civilizations persists no matter fucking what. Like a civilization that ended 2,000 years ago, the energy of it reverberates into eternity the same way that they said. The same way in the movie Gladiator, which is a movie that encapsulates the energy of the Roman Empire. Like one of the famous lines from the movie is how what you do on Earth today, or whatever it is, I'm paraphrasing. What you do on Earth echoes into eternity, or reverberates into eternity, the way that the influence of the Roman Empire does. And it's like a civilization, all of a sudden this energy congregates into a location, or around a powerful individual that has a vision. Like a lot of times a civilization is created when a powerful individual is able to unite a lot of different tribes in different areas into one centralized area. And so it takes somebody really relatable and really powerful. It takes a real alpha to do that. Like whatever, to start a civilization. But like the civilizations have energy that lasts forever. Like the Egyptian Empire is does its thing all up and down the world, and they have a certain, like, so some civilizations have a longer memory than others. uh the Egyptian Empire is probably the epitome of civilizations that have a long lasting memory, or like that are memorable. And if a civilization is long lasting, it has to do with the way that they characterized themselves while they were on Earth, and then how that character echoes into eternity. But like, if you characterize yourself with bullshit, if you characterize yourself with qualities that last longer, then you have a better chance of lasting longer. And it's like the Egyptian Empire lasts into modern day just because the pyramids are still around. For one, that gives evidence to like this empire was around, and it is still relevant now because people travel from all over the world to see those pyramids, which are a monument and a representer of the Egyptian Empire. They represent the Egyptian Empire to this day, and that's what the word represent is that it represents. So the pyramids represent or re-present moment the Egyptian Empire as long as they're still around. And it's kind of like the Bible for Christianity or something. That's like, you have a physical thing in real life that proves that the thing is relevant currently right now. And I will, this will not be a very religious hour, so therefore you might actually want to listen to it. I'll try not to get religious here or whatever. I'll try to tone down the fanatical, I'll try to tone down my religion, like propaganda for the religion that I'm creating with this podcast. I'll try to keep it quiet, you know. But but you know, like, I don't have bad intentions, or like, I'm not trying to be anti-religious. Like when I moved to Columbus, Ohio, I don't have bad intentions. I'm not trying to fuck up this Buckeyes scheme just because I like the Badgers a lot and I live in Columbus, Ohio. I'm not trying to ruin anything, but people in Ohio would think that, I think that they would think that I am, like, Buckeye fans. If I wear my Wisconsin sweatshirt around town, that's like not really acceptable in real life. Like that's a problem. Like, I don't know that I should be living here because I seriously like the Badgers. It's like a disease I have. Like, I actually like the Badgers. Like, I wear a Wisconsin sweatshirt around, but as far as anybody would know, I just used to live in Wisconsin and am like a fair weather fan. But they would be even more angry with me if they realized that I actually like them. Then they'd be more like, "Oh, are you up to something by living here?" Sometimes it feels like that's what they think, when it's like, in reality, I don't know what I'm doing in moving to a place. I don't know why I'm here. I think I just snapped out of a dream or something recently where I was like, wait a minute, why am I living in Columbus? And like, maybe I shouldn't be because I like seriously like the Badgers. But people will give you dirty looks but I think it's because Buckeye fans are nuts and maybe a little paranoid. Like, they would give me bad intentions where I don't have them. They would be like, "You are up to something." when I don't really know what I don't know what I do when I move to a place. Oh, come on, get in that hole. Oh, come on now. I want to see that bird. You know what I'm talking about? I want to see that bird. Oriole, goldfinch, blue jay. I don't care. I don't care what bird it is. I mean, all of those birds are better than a sparrow. Sparrows are just... sparrows are just the shitty. The shitty. Sparrows is the shitty of birds. But I'm just talking about like whatever those run-of-the-mill birds are that you find. Like, I just call all of them sparrows. I mean, not that I actually call them that when I see them. I call it like I see it. I just mean like you see those cheapo, like sort of smaller birds that aren't really definitive, like that aren't a blue jay. They're all kind of like sparrows. They're all just like a tiny. That's just like a dumb bird that you see all the time. You know, those are all just sparrows. But anyway, what I'm saying is that I'm just trying to prolong the hour, so it's like I do this every time, where I end up saying the important thing at the end. Let me get right into it here. I'm so fucking sorry. Forgive me, world. I'm talking about the Egyptian Empire. I'm making a point about... I want to talk about how the Egyptian Empire has identified themselves to mummification, and they do it so well. But I'm talking about, this is part of their character. This is part of the reason why they're so memorable, is that while they were on Earth, they were identifying themselves to motifs, like characteristics. They identified themselves to like mummification and death, like, and you would do well as a civilization if you identify yourself to things like death and sleeping, kind of like universal subjects. But like, if you convince the rest of the world that you have authority over death or something, then you'll be successful at living for a long time. Like civilizations or gods that deal with power over death will give like the practicers of the civilization longer lasting life, if they're like successful at convincing the rest of the world that they have some authority over death, like for real. Like that's what Egypt was able to do. Egypt was able to brand themselves as like having some sort of power over death, because like even in, it's like in recent history of the world today, like in the last century, we've dug up mummies of ancient powerful Egyptian leaders, and that's like one of the ways that Egypt preserved itself to modern day. Egypt has an ability to preserve themselves. That's They've identified themselves to motifs like mummification and whatever, and as a result, they have done something like hypnotized the rest of the world because of their powers over death and sleeping and preservation. The rest of the world is hypnotized by whatever energy they put out into the world when they were most powerful, but the energy of it still persists to this day because there's still plenty of people making content about Egypt. We're like, the world is forever enthralled by the secrets and mysteries of the Egyptian empire, and it just goes to show how good Egypt was at encrypting themselves. But encrypting has to do with like, if you're really good at encrypting, if you really have the power of encryption, a lot of times it has to do with like power over death. If you're in the elites in terms of encryption, if you're like the best at it, then you're convincing people you have something like power over death, because that'll last for a really long time, since humans don't have power over death. But like power over the crypt is what Egypt taps into, or what they did. Like, and it's not necessarily the case that it's not like Egypt was, when they existed, they're like, okay, we're gonna identify ourselves to death and mummies and whatever. Yeah, like encryption, they do identify themselves to like death and the crypt and mummies, but like the fact that they entombed their leaders and other artifacts that they have, that were, people are like digging up Egyptian shit that they buried all the time, like into modern day, or there's a lot of times where they find some room full of shit in one of the pyramids or whatever. I don't know how many instances of this have happened in the last century, but they're like, even into recent times, they're digging up like King Tut or whatever. And that, let me see, their ability to encrypt themselves. They, but like the word gypsy means out of Egypt, and that is something that Egypt does successfully. Is they're very gypsy. They're the origin of the word gypsy, and so, and it's a gypsy thing. Whatever they're able to do, their legacy that they still live on in people's hearts and minds today. That's a kind of gypsy thing because of the ability to travel, or whatever. If you're really going to get to the heart of what a gypsy is, a gypsy has a rootless existence, and they keep going. They're like a nomad. They would travel wherever. They're not identified to things. And that's the kind of quality that you have to have in order to have a long-lasting life. In order to be seen as true or possible in lots of different eras or from lots of different perspectives. You have to, like, traveling across time. That's what Egypt, the empire, is able to do. It travels across time very successfully. It keeps traveling because there's no era that can contain it or can define it. It goes beyond them, because the power of encryption that they had is a powerful one. They're good at encrypting themselves or identifying themselves to like secrets and mysteries and shit like that, because of I mean, they took steps, they took measures, they put measures in place in order to keep themselves around for a long time to survive. But it's like a lot of that, I'd say, is captured just in the idea of mummies, where it's like sleeping is like that, where sleeping, just for a regular person today in the world, sleeping is like mummification because it's a preservation process. Like, they run all these studies that sleep gives you longer lasting life. It does. Sleep allows you to live longer. It has to do with that you're like preserving yourself and you get more years. I mean, I don't know if it's true. The studies probably would suggest that you get more waking moments the more that you sleep. Like, it's an investment that gives you more waking moments. But I think that technically speaking, like, somebody should distinguish that. Does sleep give you longer lasting life just because you're like, you're spending more time in like a death period on Earth, and so then it gives you more years? Like, sleep will give you more years. I don't know if it gives you more waking moments, because it's just like preservation. But that's what the Egyptian empire does, and they're successful at marketing themselves that way to the rest of the world. That's part of their branding. Now, it's like when the Egyptian empire was around, they weren't like intending like, okay, we'll identify ourselves to mummies, and then that's how we'll market ourselves, and that's how we'll last forever. Like, the Egyptians were probably employing a ton of different literary and physical devices to promote themselves and propagandize themselves. Like they created lots of different shit, characteristic of their civilization, that hopefully would make them a bigger and bigger deal and give them a long lasting life. Like they threw a lot of shit at the wall and probably only a couple things stuck. Like, but luckily a couple things did. But it's like the things that the world remembers are, for years and years and years, about the Egyptian Empire are like ways that they characterize themselves, qualities that they have over like power over sleep, which is kind of like related to hypnosis. Like they have an ability to hypnotize the world because of their powers over preservation of themselves or whatever. But like sleeping is like mummification. It just happens at a shorter scale and at like a personal level rather than where the individual is like a civilization. This is what's interesting about time, is that a civilization as an individual is the same thing as a person as an individual in the eyes of time. The perspective of time is not like the most valid perspective, but as far as time is concerned, that's why time is interesting, is because it sees a civilization to be the same thing as a single person, because cycles are always the same. If it's a day, or if it's a lifetime, or if it's a 300-year cycle, like the cycle, like a civilization lasts 300 years, that's like one cycle for the lifetime of a civilization. So it's like people do all of this in the name of trying to say that time is interesting, like, or they're like, oh, time isn't real, or time isn't linear. And what they're getting at is, those aren't the best ways of describing it, because time is real. Time is real. Like, yeah, time's not real, then why is it 2:34 p.m.? You know, what are you saying? So time's not real? Huh, that's strange, because it's 5:18 right now. But what they mean is that time is what I just said. What they mean is that cycles are the same. A cycle is always a cycle, even if it's a day, or a lifetime, or like a civilization level, like macroscopic to microscopic. Time sees all of those to be the same thing. And it's really like sleeping is a little bit like dying. And I think it's the case that I believe that there are, like, you have other lifetimes. I don't know if when you die on Earth, you go to some other planet for your next lifetime, or you go back to Earth for your next lifetime. But I think the way that it works is the same as it works like day to day, is that when you wake up in the morning, you don't get to control the setting completely. You don't know what mood you're going to wake up in. And a lot of times, like, the mood you wake up in, or it's kind of like down to the second or the minute that you woke up, will put you in a different mood depending on what minute it was. And then that mood will be the way you are the entire day, possibly. Like, it's kind of random the way that you wake up and the way that you end up feeling for a day. You can't control the setting, what you're born into. But you can do shit the night before or the day before to prepare for that. And I think I think it's the same thing for lifetimes. Like, you can't control exactly the way that you'll start out your next lifetime, but you can prepare for it in the previous life. You can try to help yourself out, try to do whatever. Learn enough on Earth to figure out what will help you to have a better life in the next lifetime or whatever. The same as you can prepare for how well your day is going to go the day before. Like, if you did prepare, that'll help you out. But like, I think that it's something like that, but so you can't control the setting. I forget what else I was just about to say, but I mean, I can't. I can't do this that way trying to remember the points because I will just keep forgetting them. Like sleeping preserves you like that. I was going to say that it's like choice, predestination versus free will. Do you have choice over things, or is it just deterministic? It's like already predetermined what you are going to do. It's both. The same as it always works in life. You have some choice over it, but not completely. I think that like the life that you're living in now, I think that you had, or I had, some choice over it to begin with. Not completely. You can't completely control the setting. But like whatever you were born into, I think you had some choice in the time in which, like, after your previous life and before this one. I think you have some choice over it, but not all of it. But I think that like sleeping day to day for an individual is kind of like a microcosm of what the Egyptian Empire has done sleep wise over thousands of years. Is that they've gone to sleep, they've identified themselves to sleeping kinds of things. But like where I'm saying that death and sleep are really similar, especially the further you expand out time. But like in terms of a cycle, sleep and death are like almost the same, because it's just that you die during a day. It's just like for a day, for a shorter cycle, we would call that sleeping, but for a lifetime, we would call it death. So obviously, you have different words for different lengths of cycle, but I'm just saying the Egyptian Empire has preserved themselves quite well over thousands of years, and also like the pyramids are there, and that preserves them, and they have all of these physical things that are proof of their preservation alongside that, like mummification. I think that just like sleep, like you prepare yourself during your entire life, preserving yourself by going to sleep daily, and like a person as an individual, that compared to the civilization of Egypt as an individual, they are still alive in some senses because of because you sleep on them. Like don't sleep on Egypt or whatever. If it's something that you can sleep on, if you sleep on it, don't, like, if it has that quality where it'll come back to get you if you sleep on it. Kind of like the Egyptian Empire, people sleep on it, and many people can sleep very many nights for hundreds of years, and the Egyptian Empire will still be there the next day, because they're better at sleeping than other individuals and other civilizations are. But they were only able to do that because of their identity, qualities that they had, and ways that they characterized themselves. Like the Roman Empire is still remembered today. They have representers. There's a lot of civilizations that have a representer to this day, like monuments that still exist that represent their civilization, and represent meaning it represents itself, or present moments itself for modern times. Like the Colosseum does that for the Roman Empire. It present moments the Roman Empire at even currently today, because that's a product of the Roman Empire, and it's like a monument to it. It showcases it. It's a symbol of it, but it's like a symbol that's continuously and currently capturing the real energy of the actual Roman Empire, because it's like, you can't, how do you look at the Colosseum and not think about that it's the Roman Empire? Like, that's exactly what it is. It doesn't And it's that empire as opposed to like the Qing dynasty or other civilizations, the Assyrian Empire or the Babylonian Empire. And there's a lot of empires, like civilizations that are gone now, that have monuments, relics that are re-present momenting the civilization today, like the Incas and the Mayans. The Mayans have Mayan temples, and there's a lot of civilizations that died like 1,000 years ago that have monuments like that are still around. The pyramids do that for Egypt. Let's see where I am on the course. But like, it's just that the energy persists. I think that you die and you can prepare for the next life in this lifetime. And that's the way it is. It's like cycles work like that. Because time sees all of those things the same, and that's why time isn't linear, is because it's just a lot of ones, rates within a one happening at one time, or in other words, it's just a lot. Time is a lot of frequencies. That's what cycles are. Cycles are a different cycle is just a different frequency, or it's just a different interpretation of the number one. The same way minute, second, and hour are all different interpretations of the number one. That's what time is all of the interpretations of one. And that's why it isn't linear, and that's why it's interesting, is because, I mean, I would argue that the civilization of Egypt is like still alive today based on how much interest it generates. But like the cycle of one person's life is the same thing as the cycle of a 3,000 year long civilization. And they're happening at the same like moment in time. That's why time isn't linear, is because lots of cycles coincide with each other all over the place at one time. That's what outer space is doing. All of the planets' orbits, each one of those is a different cycle, is a different interpretation of a one. It's a different time, and it generates a different, each planet is a different time and generates a different gravitas and a different like a different gravitational field, gravitational pull specific to itself, that then it's a different relative time comparable to other planets. The orbit of a planet is a different interpretation of one, but it isn't just a different gravity, it's a different gravitas, because it's a different story. Most planets don't have life on them, I believe, it would appear. And so they don't really have they have zero activity with regard to their story, but a different interpretation of one is a different story, is a different lifetime, it's a different person. That's what time is doing. And people make a big stink about like, oh, time isn't real or whatever it is. Like people that want to live in the outer space, that they want to say, oh, things are so much more than what they appear because time is not linear. They make a big stink about it because the way that we process life collectively as it stands now is very linear and very limited. And it could be unlimited. It's just like it devolves into craziness when you try to accept that a deeper understanding of the way that life actually works is that no one point in time matters, and it's actually times happening. It's actually like millions of times happening all over. Like it isn't one thing, it's infinite things at any point in time. There really isn't a point in time, but it's like if you want to be an insane person, go towards the infinite perspective. If you want to live in reality, say that it's just one thing. Like, because time isn't one thing, it's one. Um, like, if you want to go into one, then it becomes infinite. If you want to be outside of one, stays as one or whatever. Um, the energy of civilizations just reverberates. And it's the same with a person or a work of art. That's what's um, profound about works of art is that you can make one and it's not like it's dead. That's like a misconception that people have, like a worry that people have that prevents them from creating things, is that the sacrifices that they're making in order to create it will go unrewarded and the art will go unnoticed. And it's really like the thing that people need to remember about art is that once you make it, it's around for forever. It works the same for a civilization as it does for a individual person or just a single painting that you paint. Like the painting is around forever even if it was shitty. Like the movie Tommy Boy with Chris Farley and David Spade is around forever for people to view as they please. They can come and go, they can view it, and then they can look away or whatever. But it's like the work of art is around forever and therefore has forever to people, for people to realize its value. If it does have value, people will realize it at some point, especially as we see that technology makes it easier and easier to remember every work of art that's ever been made. Like the shittiest music ever is now all in the same place alongside the best music ever, like on Spotify, and people will find it eventually because it only has forever for people to figure out what it is. And it's really like probably people will find it, and if it has any value, people will remember it. So you don't have to worry about making something shitty, because people will decide. People will tell you at some point if it's shitty. That's for other people to decide if it's shitty or not. Once you make something, it's around forever. Like a civilization is like that. There's a lot of different civilizations. Some are better works of art than others. But if it's like a long-lasting work of art, it has to do with how well they transcended. It has to do with how well it's like if a civilization lasts a long time, they transcended the borders of what was acceptable at the time. Or they're able to position themselves outside of the realm of what is normally possible. They're able to position themselves well. I mean, like, the Egyptians had a lot going on, and they were gypsies, and they are able to travel endlessly and continuously through time very well, but like alternative. Oh yeah, making putts today. Making putts right now. Really, the putt, I can make a putt as long as I just like focus on it rather than forget that I'm doing it. Like if I keep talking, I don't focus on the putt and then I'll miss, but like people in Ohio don't get mad at me, you know. I didn't know that I was this much of a Badger fan, and now I live in Columbus. I didn't know that this would happen, that people wouldn't like me. It's like that's silly if that would actually be a problem, but I mean, I guess It's as much a problem as anything. Trying to live in Columbus and be a serious Badger fan, because Columbus, Ohio, is where the Ohio State Buckeyes play. In case you didn't know, the Ohio State Buckeyes, and people don't like Ohio that much because um, I can't. This last 10 minutes, I probably was just a bunch of filler about. Okay, I just wish that it was. I wish that it was. Whatever. I've criticizing myself for my shortcomings in this moment. Don't need to do that. It's bullshit. People get mad at Ohio because of whatever, and then the like it's kind of more of a lightning rod of a state. It's a little bit like Florida, like that, not completely like Florida, but people sort of hate it, and it draws a lot of bad press, like Jake Paul and MGK, both from Ohio. Maybe Ohio has a little bit of that going on, give the wrong impression, or make people mad at you, make like desire to be hated. Um, Maybe. I don't know a ton about the people of Ohio, but it's like the whatever train explosion happened, and then the train got derailed, and then the toxic chemicals into the air, and then everybody on TikTok is all up in arms about it. But it's like the state of Ohio already had a presence on TikTok more so than other states, like because of its polarizing quality, where people sort of hate it for not really any particular reason, no known reason. It's just like public perception maybe finds it easier to hate Ohio than other states. And so it would appear to me that the East Palestine train explosion is a story just for morons that want to identify Ohio to being a toxic wasteland, because it just makes it easier for people who already don't like the state to say, oh, well, that place is just a toxic wasteland. And really, the thing is that too many people watch Chernobyl on HBO, and they think that anytime something like that happens, it's like, oh, this is a Chernobyl. Where it's like when Chernobyl happened, the government covered it up and didn't explain the seriousness of the situation. It only came out decades later how serious the situation was, and that all of these people needed to die, like go back into the radiation zone in order to cover it back up so that the world wouldn't have major radiation problems, because that's how big of a problem it was. But I think people are pretty stupid, and they think that this is like Chernobyl, or they want it to be that so they can just stereotype Ohio in this negative way, where they could be like, oh, well, that's just a toxic wasteland. Now they can say that for years and years because they made this thing a story, when in reality it would seem as though all of the reports are saying that they checked the air quality and that it's fine now, which would make sense because this was like a pretty finite event that happened. It's just like one burn. This train derailed, and then the people who were in authority over what's happening with these toxic chemicals were stuck in a bad situation where they had a couple options. They chose the option of burning it, and for a couple days that will present a problem. But obviously, this isn't like Chernobyl, because it's not a constantly burning furnace or whatever. It's just like a controlled burn over a finite amount of toxic chemicals. And so it's like bad for a week. But people are still talking about it now, even though it happened like 1 or 2 weeks ago. People are like, wow, this situation is just getting worse and worse. And they're like, where are all the environmentalists? The entire thing that's all bullshit. People just want, the only important thing about the story is that it happened in Ohio. Because it's actually worse for Pennsylvania, because East Palestine is right on the Ohio-Pennsylvania border, and winds in North America winds in that part of the country winds in America, almost for all of America, blow west to east, and it's actually worse for Pennsylvania than it is for Ohio. The only thing that's important about it, it's not an environmental concern, and you're being a bullshitter if you think like, yo, where are the environmentalists of the world now? Why didn't they go to East Palestine, Ohio? Well, that doesn't matter. They're not there because it's like a local event and really has no impact for anybody going forward. Like, it might burn some eyes and get into some people's water for a couple weeks, but now that it all burned away and has dispersed into different places, it's like there's toxic chemicals already everywhere in the environment. There are different places in the world spewing toxicity into the air for everybody to breathe. It doesn't matter that there's like this amplified single event in one location for like a couple hours. That doesn't increase toxicity. It increases toxicity like temporarily for a local environment. And that's why globalists, like, that's why environmentalists from around the world aren't going to show up here. It's because local events like this happen. And there's like locally there's toxic chemicals being spewed into the atmosphere at lots of local places, just in different levels of intensity. Just because this was a more intense event, what are they going to do when they show up? What is an environmentalist going to do? They're going to say, oh, here we are. That's not a place an environmentalist needs to be. Why would an environmentalist go into a more toxic location? Aren't they the people that... Like, just because they're an environmentalist doesn't mean they have to subject themselves to toxic chemicals more than other people or whatever. They have to run this story. The only thing that's important about that story is so that people can create hype for like, oh, look, it's shitty to be in Ohio, for people that already create buzz for it because they have a hate-love relationship for it or whatever. People that already have keen interest in Ohio for whatever reason. Because that's the only thing that people emphasize about it is what happened in Ohio. It's the only part that's important. It's really not a story, and it's not... Nobody in here gives a fuck. How could you? How is anybody supposed to change their life about this? Also, I heard that nobody's signing any petitions and there aren't any protests because nobody fucking cares. It doesn't even matter. But like, I walked into a gas station the other day and this woman that was working there was really mad at me. She was really pissed. And the only thing that I did was walk up to the counter and say, I'm just getting a lighter. Because like when you walk into a gas station to just get a lighter, you kind of have to interface with the workers before you do any of your business. So it makes it a slightly different situation than if you're buying like a power drink. An energy drink. Do you have any power drinks here? What kind of power drinks you got? Power drink. That they should come out with an energy drink. It's just called power drink. That's what they need to transcend. Power drink. It turns you into Bill Gates, gives you lots of power, makes you want to buy up the land of people less fortunate than you. That's like Red Bull gives you wings, power drink gives you indecency. Power drink makes you powerful in all the worst ways. Power drink makes you run over less lessers, those less than you. Power drink makes you condescending. They need to make an energy drink that gives people the power, gives people authority, warranted or not, makes people feel authoritative. Because there's power, and then there's like thinking that you have power, like having a god complex with no real authority. People in my generation have they don't have god complexes, they have Harry Potter complexes. People like me that are 30, like maybe like millennials, everybody wants to be the boy who lived, including the girls. I mean, that's just like one of the roughest gangs in town are those female soccer players on Adidas commercials. They make the Hells Angels look gay. They turn them gay. You do not want to run into female soccer players from Adidas commercials at nighttime. They're pretty pissed about inequality. They'll fuck you up. They'll kick a soccer ball at your head so hard that you switch genders. And then as you're laying on the ground bleeding, they'll yell at you that they'll be like, "We make less money than men." And then they'll spit on your junk. I mean, they're repping Adidas, they're repping Nike. They're pretty angry. They make less than men, they're pissed. And they're athletes. And they're athletic. They'll outwork you, they'll outfight you. They'll outrun you. They'll beat the shit out of you. And then they'll make less money than men. And then they'll appear in the movie Ghostbusters. Because they're strong. I'm just saying I'm getting mixed messages from Nike about this. Like, you're losing me in this world of like genders are the same. Or whatever. Genders, why don't they just say genders are the same? They don't have to show any men or any women. Wow, I made another putt. Oh, fuck, what was I talking about? I went into a gas station, y'all. Shit. Don't hate the player, hate the game. Walked into a gas station. No big deal. Hey. It's just part of one of the things I did in life. Because I do real shit, you know. Because I'm always hustling. Because I'm always working. I walked into a gas station one time and asked for a lighter. Just a little snippet of what kind of goes on in my fucking life. And then I made mad stacks. Then I made trillions of dollars after that. Because of my hip-hop attitude. My hip-hop attitude brought me to billions of dollars. As a result of... as a result of just hustling and grinding, hustling. I can't stop grinding. That's why my life is just so incalculably crazy. It's kind of like the word February or something. Incalculably is difficult to pull off. I roll into the club incalculably. Just at an incalculable level is the level at which my life transpires. It transpires incalculably. That's why I'm so crazy as to sometimes walk into a gas station, not like a regular person, but like a pimp. It's because I'm a pimp. That's why I do normal things that don't in any way make me look like a normal person. these are jokes that you probably don't get, but this woman was really mad at me, and then over the next 24 hours, she looked like I walked in, I got a lighter, she was pissed at me, and then she's like, "Have a nice day." And she was like definitely angry. She wanted to communicate to me that she was angry. And when she said "have a nice day," I just stared at her and then I walked out. And for the next 24 hours, I thought about that interaction like 3,000 times. Does anybody get that? Because I get that. Where when something happens, my mind just keeps bringing it up over and over and over again. Like, remember when the woman looked at you angry? Remember when she was angry? To the point that I have to just stop and tell myself out loud, like, I don't know why she was mad. It's like, shut the fuck up, my own mind. That keeps bringing it up. Like, I don't know what it was. So, I went through 1,000 different things as to what it could have been. Why was she angry at me? Was it the way I walked in? Am I too pretentious? Was it like, did I walk in kind of goofy? Like, I thought that this thing was funny? Because it is kind of funny to walk into a place where I would see it as funny. I treat things as a joke and other people don't, and she's probably doesn't like my laissez-faire attitude or something. And that's what I thought it was to begin with, is like, oh, I guess I just walked in too casually, or like maybe romantically, like I thought something important was happening, and she's like, hey, you're not special, this is a gas station. But the thing is, it's like, when people treat you specially as a way of trying to tell you that you're not special, they're just proving to you that you are special. Like, if this isn't a special interaction, why are you especially angry in ways that you wouldn't be angry at another person that walked in normal? And it really just leads me to the question, like, sorry, is there a way I'm supposed to act in a gas station? Is that written in the Constitution? I know that everybody in the waking world would tell me in response to that, yeah, there is a way to act in a gas station. You're supposed to, you have to act according to the environment. Follow the rules. This isn't your show. This isn't your world, sir. There is a way you're supposed to act in a gas station. But because everybody would respond that way, really, is there a way? Because who is it up to? And also, I'm just supposed to be a good actor, no matter what? Everybody's supposed to be good at acting. That's expected of you. When you walk into an environment, you have to know how to behave and how to act in accordance with that environment. And you have to know how to act in a gas station as opposed to at an Aeropostale as well. Because those are different environments and they elicit a different set of rules, by the way. So am I supposed to be a good actor in a million different environments? Where does it stop? That's what the world expects me to do? Be a good behavior for 1,000 different sets of rules. Because that's what you're telling me to do if there really is a way I'm supposed to act in a gas station. There is only if I'm supposed to be the best, if I'm supposed to be good at acting. So is everybody in the world good at acting, or are some people awkward? I think it's the latter. I think some people aren't good at acting, so it's like, don't stop acting like everybody is. That's a show. That's for pretend. That's bullshit. That's an act. That's bullshit. The world acting like, oh, I'm supposed to be polite or follow the rules. I mean, it's just like, because of course there's a way to act in a gas station. Don't you know how to act? Like, you need to know how to be. That's not the way it is. Because if there's a way to be, you're telling me that if there's a way to be, there's a way to be for like a million different sets of circumstances. You can't expect me to be a good actor in every single one of them. You can't expect me to have the skill of acting. That's bullshit. You should have the skill of acting, and therefore you should be able to behave good. That's not the way it works, okay? It's not the way it fucking works. And so, like, Bill Burr, I saw, or there's this clip that I just saw the title of, and the clip is like, Bill Burr is done with awkward people. This is a hot take from Bill Burr in the year 2023, because that's what the world is saying right now. It's like, we're done. If you're an awkward person, we don't have to listen to you, and we can just completely write you out of reality. Oh wow, what a new thing to say, like, as if the world hasn't been shitting awkward people out of existence for all of the time that it's existed. It's only in the last 10 years that there's been some awareness made for awkwardness, that it's like some amount of acceptance has happened. Like, it's the most regressive thing possible to be like, oh yeah, the awkward people, because primitively speaking, awkward people, their seed was destroyed. They didn't survive. You're cast out of the group. Like, how did an awkward person do in an environment where, like, when we were primitives and had to kill all of our own food to survive, when people had to congregate in gangs and tribes for survival, like, that's the only way you could survive. An awkward person then was just cast out of the group, and they died early, and they didn't spread their seed, you know. Like, awkward people, weird people always have it shitty. It's not interesting to say we need to treat them shitty. That's the way it's always been. But anyway, I thought about it, and then I thought, maybe it's because I was wearing a Badger sweatshirt. Maybe that's why she was angry. So then, because maybe I have been in there, it's a UDF. UDF is a little bit more family environment, a little bit more Ohio specific, and so maybe they want more Ohio people in there or whatever. But my thought was, I've probably been in there a couple times wearing the sweatshirt. She's seen me a couple times enough to develop an impression of me, and now she's thinking like, yeah, what are you doing here? What are you doing living in Ohio wearing your... It's not funny to just like walk in wearing your Wisconsin sweatshirt. What are you doing? Or she like develop a sort of hatred, like, if you want people to hate you, well, then here it is. Here it is. I am angry at you. Is this what you wanted? I don't know. Maybe that is what I want. Maybe she's right. But the moral of the story is that if somebody looks at you angrily and you remember it a million times for the next couple of days, it says something more about you than about the person, because she is right. I thought about it, and I'm like, she's right, even though I have no idea what she's angry about, because I was able to take the way that she looked at me and interpret it and it made me think something about myself. It said something about me, that I took that anger and ran with it and made it manifest in like a bunch of different ways. Like, she could have been angry in all these ways. And it says something about me, like a place I need to get to in life. Like, I'm taking her anger and interpreting it at my leisure in whatever way I want to. And so as a result, because I'm using it, she was right. Because I'm using her anger to point the finger at myself in whatever way I want to expose things about my life that are problematic, because it made me go into like these spirals of like, how am I living my life that I deserve this anger or whatever. Like, it's really like I'm mad at myself that I would take her anger that seriously. And I used it to tell myself what I was angry at myself about, And so good on her. Get angry at people because it's on them. I don't know. Don't be mean. She was mean and just created unhappiness when I didn't need it. So I gotta move out of Ohio because they're gonna kill me. They're gonna beat me to death. Be like, we can't have your kind here. You're a disease. Like I'm something they ate, something bad in their system they need to spew out. I mean, I guess I could see how they would see it that way, the Ohioans, but I only because they're nuts. Only because they're crazy. It's not actually that way. I'm not trying to live here to fuck with anybody's system. Oops. Screwed that one up. Screwed up that shot. But, you know, there's the Egyptian Empire. Mummies the Egyptian Empire. But, they have the Egyptian Empire and certain empires that last longer. Like, some empires better than others have memorable qualities, and they're able to keep re-manifesting themselves or re-presenting themselves time and time again, over and over. The Egyptian Empire keeps manifesting itself like elves, just as an idea. Elves is like a gypsy idea in the same way it's rootless. It travels through time. It keeps manifesting itself over centuries. Like, elves will go away and then it'll re-pop up as some other shit. Like, the myth of Christmas elves is only about 150 years old. I'll go into this maybe at the beginning of the next thing, but it's like elves has a lifespan in this same way, but because elves is like a gypsy kind of idea where like rootless, that makes it, I guess, kind of scarier or more mystifying or more horrific. That it's like more hidden, difficult to pin down what an elf is, but it's like elves. Yeah, whatever. I'm not going to go into that at this very end of this episode. I don't feel like completing the thought. I'm just going to finish the last couple holes here, focus on them. It looks like I'm in a position to win this tournament here at the Reverie Open. Oh yeah, I make a par. I know how to make par. I'm just going to tell people that, like, I shoot in the 70s, even though I do it on a video game. Like, oh yeah, I shot a 73 last week. Yeah, I'm really getting my score down. Like, I can tell people that. Like, yeah, I was on the course, hit the links last night. I'd be like, how'd you hit the links at nighttime? Oh yeah, we're going for the gusto. We're going 164. Ooh, that's not gonna make it. Okay, good. 172. We're going driver. Yes, definitely. We're going driver out of the rough. 172 yards away. I wouldn't have it any other way. Yeah, baby. Perfect because it needed to be. Get over those rocks. Alright, that's as good as I could do. Golfers are getting worse and worse according to golf broadcasters. Because golf broadcasters make the standard easier and easier for that's the best that they could do. It's like 30 feet away is the best that they could do when chipping out of the rough. It's such bullshit. They're the best golfers in the world. It's like broadcasters are making them worse and worse as time goes on. They're lowering the standard. Like everything is a good shot. Spare me. Spare me, Jesus. Alright, that's it. I finished the first round of the Reverie Open, and I finished a podcast episode. And something else, cycles in time. The cycle of a round is like the cycle of a single hour. Everything is a lifetime. All of them are lifetimes. It's just which one are you going to be in? Even at this moment, there are 1,000 lifetimes that you can see yourself to be in. Which cycle will you be? For you and for other people. That's all that we have. This was the 118th episode of this podcast. Talk to you later. Boom. Boom shakalaka.